Hey everybody, Scoutcrafter here again. Got a quick cleanup restoration video of some old socket sets from the 60s, 70s, 50s. Let's check them out. Okay, these two socket sets we're going to be dealing with today were made by Indestro. That was they were out of Chicago, Illinois. You could see Indestro Manufacturing Corporation. And these were old socket sets. They were wall hanger kits. And this one here was a slightly larger set. The green was metric. The red was standard. And you can see we got some dust and cobwebs and whatever, but they're in pretty good shape. All they really need up is a good cleaning. Back here, you could see the what it says, the socket wrench set. And these were very interesting because a lot of times they were knockoffs were made by Japan. And they looked identical, but obviously they didn't have the quality of American made. Back then, Japan wasn't what it is now. And that's what you see a lot of them floating around for a couple dollars. But these tend to hold their value. I see these as high as $50 a set, which is a little bit exorbitant, but you know, a lot of people remember these. So let's clean these up. Let's see if we can get these into looking decent. We got to first wash them up, and let's get started. Okay, besides getting some of the spider crustaceans and things out of these sockets, you can see the sockets are a little bit dull, but they're really, the finish underneath is really good. With this here, these weren't expensively made, and they're just the stamping put together with a ratcheting hex in the top. But this here, this metal, even with the brass brush, will take some scratches. So what I'm going to use is a good old-fashioned Brillo pad and get off all this years of neglect. Okay, here we are after the Brillo session. We have the sockets on the furnace drying off. You could see these came out really nice, again, just with the Brillo. Now what we're going to have to do, we rinse this off, but got to be careful. You don't want to lose too much of this lettering. Unfortunately, they were just stamped at that time. But we're going to use some Colorback. Colorback is it's nothing more than a polishing compound, a very light polishing compound. And we're going to go over all this here just to make sure that it don't rust again and put a little shine back on this painted surface. Okay, these have been sitting here for an hour. The sockets, they've been Brilloed. They're all dry. Let's take everything over to the buffer and just put a nice little shine on it. Okay, we are done with polishing. We are almost finished. One thing that you have to remember is after you polish, even though this might look shiny and ready to go, you have to spray it down. This is some WD-40. All right, watch what happens. We're going to spray this down with WD-40. We're going to wipe it, just give it a nice wipe down, and look at all the residual compound that'll come off. You see that? That's all compound. So you always have to, after you buff, you have to wipe it down, and then we'll lubricate it, and these will be ready to go. Okay, these sets are all polished out now. Everything is lubricated. You can hear how sweet they are now. Nice and smooth. Everything looks good. Polish came out nice. This is, you know, these weren't meant to be a high chrome polish back then. They had like almost like a galvanized coating on them at the time, and you know, they used to get dulled out over the years. But the sockets came out good. They look, you know, especially after the buffing, they came out nice. And these were the worst ones. Now the standard ones, I don't think they were really used, so they came out nice. So let's pack them away and test them out. One thing Indestro was known for was their creative sheet metal punching and the little kits that they put together. That metric kit is an 11-piece. This is a 19-piece. And you could see that this is made as a wall hanger. You put two nails into the wall, and then you could just lift it off and take it off. The way it's designed, it will not, none of these pieces will fall out of this kit, which is pretty ingenious. And to get out for example, the ratchet, there's a little spring tab here, and all you'd have to do is just slip that out and that would slip right out. Same thing with putting it back. So that was pretty ingenious. And now all the sockets are captive by the hex bar. So, and the little detent, you see that ball detent, all you'd have to do is push it out, and that would slip out, and you have access to your sockets. So let's give it a test on the nut tester. And now before we start anything, I like to always lubricate. I lubricated the other one. Let me show you how I do this. I take a little 3-in-1. That's nothing more than a 10-weight oil. And right here on the crack, you can see there's a rim that goes around the, that moves, that pivots on the ratchet, you could see. And what I like to do is put 2 drops, just 2 drops right along the rim, let that soak in, and then flip it and put 2 on the other side. And again, that'll find its way in. Then just run it around a few times. And the beauty of this, that's all you have to do. You do that once a year, and then if you see it's getting a little gummed up, you do it, and you can always soak it in the kerosene or penetrating oil after a few years if it does feel gummed up. But this is as smooth as it can be, and you just wipe off the excess, and that's all. And let's get started with the test. Okay, we have the nut tester set up in the vise, and that's an 11/16 nut, so we'll pull out the 11/16 socket here. Now these were 12-point sockets, and don't be confused that even though the ratchets weren't of the highest of quality, these sockets were very high quality from Indestro. They were making them, they were very popular in the 30s and 40s. The straight knurl on this socket says that it's most likely after production of 1950. And you can see these little detents on the wrench. You just press this in here like that, and if you had to break a nut free or something, you could use this long leverage of this bar. So that's really nice feature. Now if you wanted to use the ratchet, you would just take the ratchet out, and you would take the little, this is called, when these are female ratchets, and this is called a male plug. And the plug fits in here. Now depending if you're tightening or loosening, this would be tightening this way, so we would put it into this side, and you just pop it in. Again, it has that detent that it won't let it go in any further, and then you just snap on the socket onto here, and then we would try it onto here. Again, we have it set for tightening, and you can see it's very, now it doesn't have a tremendous amount of teeth in that gearing, but it does work very smooth. If you wanted to loosen, you would just push onto here, pop it out, slip it around, put it in, and now you're on loosen. Again, that works really nice. Another interesting feature here, you could put the socket on the end of the long hex bar. You could also put your ratchet onto the hex bar and place it on top of the socket, and it would give you a long, well, almost probably 10 or 11 inches of an extension. So that was something that was another interesting aspect of this small set, of the versatility and on how nice they were put together. So in closing, next time you're at the garage sale and you see one of these sets for $5 or so, and I think it would be well worth it to pick it up. I think you'll really enjoy it. All right, thanks very much. Hope you enjoyed it. Take care. Have a nice day.